The shit is wicked on these mean streets, mean streets.
Dear God, I wonder can you save me?
Almost 4 years after his tragic death in Atlanta, Davon Daquan Bennett, better known as King Von, remains one of the most talked about names in hip-hop. Even in 2023, his music continues to drop, keeping his presence alive. But it's not just his tracks making headlines. Von's private life and street reputation have been exposed, revealing deep ties to Chicago's gang scene. With allegations linking him to multiple homicides, some even labeled him a serial killer. It's no wonder why many, especially fellow rappers, were straight up terrified of him. A big part of what made Von so feared was the people he rolled with. They say you're a reflection of your crew, and Von's crew was nothing short of dangerous. His circle included big names like Lil Durk, but one of his closest homies was James Johnson, better known as T-Roy. Standing just over 5 feet tall, T-Roy was a ruthless enforcer for the Black Disciples set O Block. Though not widely known to the public while alive, his legend grew after his death, with Von and others keeping his name alive in songs and interviews. T-Roy was known to have put in serious work during Chicago's gang wars, with multiple shootings and murders allegedly under his belt. His name carried so much weight that rumors swirled about him being Chief Keef's personal shooter. Chief Keef didn't shy away from the talk, often mentioning T-Roy and his music. On No Reason, Keef rapped, "I'm coolin' in the trap, getting high for no reason. T-Roy grabbed my strap, he gon' blast for no reason." In another song, Savage, he said, "T-Roy, he got the semi, he'll send your ass to heaven." Apart from that, Chief Keef hinted at T-Roy being a shooter in his track Self, where he spit, "I don't care if you with them ninjas or if you by yourself, T-Roy got a gun that's bigger than him." After his death, Von's former partners praised T-Roy and made it clear he was a savage in the streets. So how did young T-Roy become one of the most feared gangsters in Chicago? A few theories float around trying to explain why T-Roy turned into a bloodthirsty shooter who struck fear into his ops. According to his boy Tay Capone, T-Roy started wilding out like that because he was just fed up with being picked on. Keep it a buck, being short wasn't easy, especially growing up in the hood. T-Roy was always getting clowned, even in school. Eventually, that ish wore him down, and he decided he wasn't gonna take that disrespect no more. People like that, who feel like they gotta prove themselves, usually go off the deep end. T-Roy had that chip on his shoulder, and it turned into something way bigger, literally and figuratively. Fed up with the treatment he got because of his short stature, T-Roy turned to the one thing that would keep all his bullies at bay. He got himself a gun, and not just any gun. Whatever the biggest and baddest one was, T-Roy made sure he had it. However, another one of T-Roy's childhood friends, J Hood, gave deeper insight into what really turned James Johnson into a cold-blooded killer. T-Roy was traumatized after witnessing the death of his friend and childhood hero. On August 10th, 2011, at around 11 p.m., O.D. Perry, a popular Wick City gang member, was riding his bike on the 6,400 block of South Martin Luther King Drive when everything changed. Witnesses say a person with dreadlocks walked up, drew a gun, and let off multiple shots. 2 others ran from the scene and hopped into a car, speeding away. O.D. bled out on the street, dying in T-Roy's arms. His final words to T-Roy were, "They got me, bro." That moment, witnessing O.D.'s death and holding him as he bled out, had a lasting effect on T-Roy. After that, he was never the same, channeling his grief and rage into the streets. O.D. Perry was so loved and adored by everyone in Parkway Gardens that after his death, the Wick City Gang changed its name to O Block in his honor. Even his funeral was packed. So many people from all over the city came to pay their respects. O.D. wasn't just a member of the community. He was family to everyone in Parkway Gardens. His loss hit hard, especially for T-Roy, who was there when it all went down, holding his friend as he bled out. The people of Parkway Gardens had never seen such a popular figure die at the hands of their ops. O.D. Perry was one of the first deaths they suffered from the enemy. His loss had a deep and lasting impact on the entire community. O.D. wasn't just a figure, he was family, a beloved member of Parkway Gardens, and his death sent shockwaves through the neighborhood. It seemed O.D. Perry's death affected one young man in particular, T-Roy. First, he was horrified by what he witnessed. The neighborhood's idol, riddled with bullets and bleeding out. Then the sadness hit him, the realization that O.D. was gone for good. But something in T-Roy snapped that night. Maybe it was hearing O.D.'s last words. "They got me, bro." Whatever it was, that moment changed T-Roy forever. According to J Hood, that incident shaped T-Roy into the cold-blooded shooter he would become. He must have been traumatized by what went down that night, but one thing was clear. O.D.'s death had to be avenged, no matter the cost. O.D. left behind some big shoes to fill, and T-Roy made it his mission to step into them. It's important to know that before O.D. Perry's murder, T-Roy wasn't really caught up in violent gang life like that. Yeah, he moved with guns, but it wasn't about sliding on his ops. According to his homie J Hood, T-Roy carried a strap mostly because of peer pressure. The older dudes used to clown on them heavy, so he and his crew started doing things they didn't even want to do, just to prove they belonged in the mix. But after OD's death, everything flipped. That pain, that anger, it turned T-Roy into a different breed. That's when his reign of terror started, and he made it his life's mission to slide on his ops every chance he got. T-Roy wasn't just about action. He wanted everybody to know what time it was. Dude got so bold he'd hit up social media to let his enemies know straight up. He was ready to catch a body anytime, anywhere. No hiding, no playing. He wanted the ops to feel the heat, and he made sure the streets knew his name. Among T-Roy's most infamous hits were Boss Trell and Lil Durk, two names that cemented his reputation as a feared figure in the streets. The story of Lil Durk's last moments paints a chilling picture of how T-Roy moved in the field. On January 8, 2013, T-Roy, along with King Von and two others, slid through their ops territory in a Chevy Impala, creeping slow through 63rd and St. Lawrence. They were hunting for a target, and fate delivered Marlon Monroe, better known as Lil Durk. Lil Durk had been spending the day helping his aunt, painting her woodlawn building. After hours of work, he decided to step out for a drink, heading toward a nearby convenience store. What he didn't know was that T-Roy had already spotted him. The moment Lil Durk made his move, T-Roy jumped out of the Impala, pipe in hand, and wasted no time letting off shots. Lil Durk tried to run, but the bullets caught him. He stumbled, collapsing into a patch of tall weeds in an empty lot near the store. When the police showed up, they investigated the scene, cleaned up, and dipped. But they didn't spot Lil Durk's body hidden in the weeds. His lifeless body wouldn't be found until hours later, a grim testament to how swiftly and efficiently T-Roy carried out his work. It was a 16-year-old relative rushing to beat curfew who stumbled across Lil Durk's body in that abandoned lot on the 6,300 block of South St. Lawrence Avenue. The discovery was haunting, a stark reminder of the brutality that had gripped the streets. Lil Durk, only 21 at the time of his death, had been trying to turn his life around. He'd been out of prison for just 2 months, on parole after serving time for stealing a car. During his bid, he'd managed to earn his GED and was focused on making a fresh start. He was working to get his painter's license and had been helping with maintenance work on properties owned by his aunt. But the streets don't forget, and sometimes, even when you're trying to change, your past catches up with you. His tragic end serves as a testament to how unforgiving the life he was trying to leave behind can be. Lil Durk's story is just one of many, dreams of a better future cut short by the relentless cycle of violence. The next op to drop was Boss Trell, and this one hit close to home for T-Roy. Trell had taken out one of T-Roy's close homies, Sherroyd Liggins. Cops found Sherroyd laid out on the street, a single gunshot to the head, over on the 2200 block of East 99th Street. They rushed him to Stroger Hospital, but he didn't make it. He was pronounced dead just hours later. Boss Trell, real name Laquan McDonald, had been trying to escape the inevitable. He lived by the gun, and he knew what came next. He was destined to die by it. The streets of Chicago were boiling over with retaliation and bodies dropping left and right. Trell understood the only real way out was to leave the city altogether, start fresh somewhere far from the chaos. But Chicago had a grip on him, and leaving wasn't as easy as he hoped. In the weeks before his death, the pressure was on. OB's 600 members had already taken a shot at him. Then, in back-to-back incidents, he got shot at by none other than King Von and Big A. That's when the paranoia really kicked in. Boss Trell knew the clock was ticking. Panicked, he made plans to start a new life in another part of the country. Boss Trell thought he had found a way out of the cycle. He set his sights on Iowa, even copping a bus ticket to make his escape. According to the ticket, he was set to leave Chicago on November 10th, 2012. Just 3 days before his departure, he hit Twitter talking about his excitement for a fresh start. Can't wait till I get my new start. But that tweet was like sending up a flare for his enemies. His ops weren't about to let him dip without paying for his past. They saw it as their last chance to catch him slipping. Rumor has it, T-Roy and his crew cooked up a plan to make sure Boss Trell wouldn't make it to Iowa or anywhere else. The setup was dirty, but effective. Word is, they used a girl to bait Trell out of hiding. She was supposed to link up with him the next day. Trell, thinking he was just meeting up, pulled up to the spot alone. But when he got there, Shorty was nowhere to be seen. Before he could figure out what was happening, a car rolled up slow, creeping like it had death in the passenger seat. It didn't take long for Trell to realize he'd been played. He broke into a run, but his ops were already locked and loaded. Shots rang out as they chased him down. Trell tried to escape, but the bullets caught him, and he hit the ground. T-Roy and his crew peeled off, leaving another body on Chicago's streets. Trell's dream of starting fresh died with him, just another victim in a city where the past has a way of catching up, no matter how fast you try to run. Just 2 days before Boss Trell was supposed to dip out of Chicago, they found him face down in an alley on the 2600 block of West 83rd Street, a single shot to the back of his head. His ops celebrated like it was a trophy win. Twitter lit up with disrespectful posts, mocking his failed escape. One tweet straight up clowned him. Boss Trell thought he could get away from the rack, but who he bumped into? But karma don't miss. T-Roy, who had made a name for himself by living life in the fast lane of gang violence and bloodshed, would meet the same fate. The very streets he terrorized, the same rules he played by caught up with him. The cycle he helped fuel swallowed him whole. Valentine's Day 2017 turned into a bloody chapter in Chicago's street history. T-Roy and one of his homies were strolling through the 2000 block of East 71st Street in the South Shore neighborhood, unaware that their ops, TB and Can't Get Right, were on their heels. CCTV footage shows TB and Can't Get Right prowling the streets, eyes locked in predator mode, scanning for their target. T-Roy and his boy dipped into a store on 71st Street, probably thinking it was just another day. Inside, they were chopping it up in one of the aisles, casual like nothing was about to go down. But outside, TB and Can't Get Right weren't letting up. They walked into the store, TB's hand tucked just enough to hide the pipe he was gripping. Without hesitation, TB made his move. He raised the strap and let off a shot, dropping T-Roy to the floor in seconds. It was over just like that. T-Roy was rushed to Northwestern Memorial Hospital, but the damage was done. He didn't make it. The streets felt the loss heavy, and the rap world wasn't silent either. Lil Durk, Lil Reese, 600 Breezy, and Chief Keef all hit Twitter with emotional posts, mourning their fallen brother. T-Roy's death was a stark reminder that in the life he lived, even the most feared shooters weren't invincible. When King Von was locked up fighting a murder charge, the streets were moving wild. On an Instagram Live, Von opened up, saying when his mom broke the news about T-Roy's death, it hit different, had him in tears, something he hadn't done in years. That bond ran deep, and losing T-Roy cut him to the core. Lil Durk, another O-Block heavyweight, wasn't quiet during this time either. Known for his deep ties to the streets, Durk had always been a name folks whispered about when it came to Chicago's gang drama. While he hadn't been officially indicted for any crimes, the streets buzzed with speculation, especially when FBG Cash's name got caught in the crossfire. FBG Cash had been relentless, dragging King Von's name after his death and even disrespecting Von's mural. In the world of Chicago gang politics, those kinds of moves don't go unnoticed, and many started connecting dots back to Durk. Lil Durk wasn't playing when it came to folks disrespecting Von's name. He even sent out a cryptic warning on Instagram that had everybody thinking he was talking to FBG Cash. "Don't diss Thang if you be lingering and chasing, won't end well," he posted. People took it as a direct shot at Cash, who had been steady throwing dirt on Von's legacy. Durk made his stance even clearer in his track Computer Murderers, where he spit, "Sneaking pics by Von's mural like Lil Bro won't come out and spin." That line had the streets buzzing, especially after rumors started swirling about Cash's death. Word is, Cash got set up by a woman, which only fueled speculation. With Durk's warning still fresh in people's minds and the way things went down, a lot of folks believe Von's squad had something to do with it. If true, it sent a loud message to everyone. Von's name wasn't to be played with, even if he was gone. Apart from T-Roy and Lil Durk, King Von was feared because of his affiliation with O-Block, one of the most notorious and dangerous gangs in Chicago. O-Block is a faction of the Black Disciples, and they had a reputation for being ruthless in the streets. Once Von entered the rap game and started earning, he didn't forget where he came from. He took care of his fellow O-Block members, even gifting some of them custom-made O-Block chains. O-Block wasn't just a gang to Von, they were his family. They had his back, no matter what. O-Block members weren't just close to Von, they were his security. In interviews, Von's former manager 100K Track revealed that Von trusted O-Block more than anyone when it came to keeping him safe. These guys were willing to go above and beyond for him, showing just how deep the loyalty ran. Hell, some of those same O-Block members are now facing life sentences for crimes linked to Von. His connection to the gang was so strong that their fates became intertwined. King Von wasn't just feared for his reputation. O-Block's name carried weight, and so did his. With O-Block by his side, King Von was practically unstoppable. It's even rumored that O-Block was behind the murder of Lil Pab, a close affiliate of Quando Rondo. Now we know Quando Rondo is largely blamed for King Von's death, though he didn't physically pull the trigger that night. But his disses toward Von in his music seemed to stir the pot, especially when his crew was still grieving. Quando's words in an interview with All Around TV only added fuel to the fire. He said, "However some shit come to me, that's how I'm about to go about that. Death threat all you want, bro. That's just some words, my nigga. Go do an action." Those words may have been the final straw, as all hell broke loose for Quando Rondo. On November 19th, 2022, at a gas station in Beverly Grove, several gunmen ambushed Quando's entourage and opened fire. Although Quando himself wasn't hit, reports showed that he was the intended target. Unfortunately, a member of his crew wasn't so lucky. His friends loaded him into the black SUV and rushed him about a mile to West Hollywood, where police were already responding to the shooting. Cops gave CPR to the victim, who was still alive but unconscious. Footage of Quando screaming as they pulled the body from the car quickly went viral on social media. An ambulance rushed the victim to the hospital, but he ultimately didn't make it. Quando later confirmed the victim as Lil Pab after posting a photo of them together on Instagram. Although no one from O-Block directly claimed responsibility, it wouldn't be surprising that, just like FBG Cash, Quando was being targeted for Von's death. This all highlights that Von's crew were ruthless, dangerous men who weren't afraid to pull the trigger and handle their enemies. Mess with Von, and you mess with all of them, which is why so many rappers were scared of him. But was Von really like his friends? A cold-blooded killer just like his crew? While many of King Von's fans would not like to admit the rapper's criminal past, quite a few of his friends have come forward and revealed his lifestyle in interviews. Apart from that, the feds have uncovered enough evidence tying him to shootings and murders. After Von's death, videos popped up all over YouTube detailing the murders he had carried out. He had even earned the title serial killer. While many deaths and shootings have been connected to the Chicago rapper, there are 3 that the feds have confirmed that Von actually took part in. These involved Jakira Barnes, FBG Duck, and Alexander Weatherspoon. Before we get into all the shots fired and bodies dropping that made Von a legend in the rap game, let's rewind to some of his legendary beefs. See, Von wasn't just about the guns. He wasn't afraid to use his hands. In jail, on the streets, wherever he was, dude was always ready to throw down. And some of these brawls were caught on camera. In this clip, you see Von walking up to another inmate, and boom, they're trading punches. Other dudes had to jump in and break it up, but that's just how Von was. Then there's this other clip where Von showcases some serious jailhouse ingenuity. He somehow manages to slip out of his handcuffs and immediately targets his rival. They struggle, and in a matter of seconds, Von's free. The other inmate tries to escape, but Von corners him and unleashes a barrage of punches, knocking him to the ground. 2 other inmates join the fray, but thankfully the guards arrive before things escalate further. These incidents provide a glimpse into the volatile and often violent world Von inhabited. The video leak didn't surprise anyone. Von had a history of attacking his rivals without warning, but what truly baffled everyone, even the seasoned prison guards, was how the hell he managed to break free from his restraints. It turns out the inmate attacked by Von was 051 Freaky, a member of a rival gang. According to Lil Reese, Von may have targeted Freaky because of a disrespectful tattoo he had of L.A. Capone, an up-and-coming rapper closely associated with Lil Durk. Tragically, L.A. Capone was murdered in 2013 at the age of 24. While leaving a recording studio, he was ambushed and shot by a member of the 051 Young Money gang, later identified as Lil Mick. Even outside of prison, Von's aggression was well known. He was caught on video attacking fellow rapper Quando Rondo, a confrontation that ultimately cost him his own life. Von and his entourage had flown to Atlanta to celebrate the release of his debut album. After leaving the album release party, they were expected to return to their rented Airbnb. However, Von decided to make a detour to Monaco Hookah Lounge. Waiting outside the club, Von received word that Quando Rondo was parked nearby. In a flash, Von confronted Rondo, initiating a physical altercation. Von's associates joined in, attacking Rondo while he desperately tried to defend himself. Suddenly, Lil Tim, one of Quando Rondo's associates, appeared with a gun and opened fire. Von was fatally wounded and later succumbed to his injuries at Grady Hospital. Besides throwing hands, Von was known for his trigger finger. One of the beefs he locked in on was that 17-year-old chick, Jakira Barnes, aka K.I. This girl was going in, wreaking havoc on O-Block and their folks. Word on the street is, she even bodied Odie Perry and bragged about it online, even posting pics with his strap. That ish really pissed off Von and his crew, and they started plotting her downfall. Even though she met the same fate as Odie Perry, Jakira Barnes, or K.I. as she was known, was a major headache for O-Block. This young woman, labeled the female assassin by online blogs, was a key player in the Gangster Disciples, specifically the STLEBT faction, also known as Tookaville or the Tooka Gang, which was locked in a bitter feud with O-Block. Interestingly, K.I. reportedly dreamed of becoming a social worker. Her mother described her as a loving and sweet child. However, she became deeply involved in the STLEBT set at a very young age. Everything changed on the evening of January 12, 2011. K.I.'s best friend, Shondale Gregory, better known as Tooka, was just minding his business at the bus stop on 63rd Street when they sprayed that block up. Tooka dropped right there, dead on the scene. That's when K.I. snapped. She transformed. No more sweet girl. She turned into a cold-blooded killer, respected on the Chirac streets, feared by her enemies. It didn't take long for her to become a legend in the streets, a real menace. They called her Snoop, like that ruthless chick from The Wire. Word on the street is she had already bodied somebody by 14, and they whisper about her being responsible for like 20 bodies. Her enemies hated her guts, always looking over their shoulder, scared of what she might do next. On April 11th, a hooded gunman shot Barnes in front of a home in the 6,400 block of South Everhart. I was hit 9 times in the mouth, neck, and chest before running and collapsing on a neighbor's doorstep and passing out. She later succumbed to her injuries at Northwestern Memorial Hospital. That day she was walking with her brother FBG Butter and a friend. All 3 sustained gunshot wounds, but it seemed as though K1 was the intended target as the other 2 survived. King Von was arrested in connection with the shooting after he was identified by eyewitnesses but was soon released, as police were unable to meet the burden of proof in court. Ultimately, the charges were rejected because of the lack of strong evidence to convict Von. Years later, after King Von died in a tragic shooting in Atlanta, reports surfaced showing that Von had indeed killed K1. According to police reports, the shooter wore a gray hoodie and blue jeans. He approached the 3 victims, produced a handgun, and began firing in the direction of the victims, striking all 3. He then entered an unknown vehicle and fled the scene. J. Hood, who was very close to Von at the time, narrated what happened the day K.I. died. He admits that Von confessed to killing Jakira Barnes. According to the former O-Block member, Von told him that he had shot 3 people and that K.I. was the last one of the 3 he had shot and killed. As soon as Von told him this, sirens could be heard in the distance getting closer. However, K.I.'s brother, FBG Butter, who was present at the scene, denies this. He denies the rumor that Von was responsible for his sister's death. Despite strong opposition from Butter, police reports emerged in 2023, showing that he had confessed to cops that Von had indeed killed his sister. According to the documents, Cooperator 3 was also present for and witnessed the murder of his sister, Jakira Barnes, by O-Block member Davon Bennett. This is not the only murder that was connected to the late Chicago rapper. The death of Carlton Weekly, alias FBG Duck, was also linked to Von. However, cops uncovered all this after he had passed away. On August 4th, 2020, news broke out that FBG Duck had been shot and killed at Michigan Avenue and East Oak Street in the Gold Coast area of Chicago. Everyone could tell that it was a hit, and it was not long before 5 members of O-Block were arrested in connection to the murder. On October 13th, 2020, the feds raided O-Block and arrested 5 men for FBG Duck's murder. These were Charles Liggins, aka C Murder, Kenneth Robertson, aka Kenny Mack, Carlos Offord, aka Loss, Christopher Thomas, aka C Thang, and Marcus Smart, aka Moo Wop. The 5 were charged with murder, unlawful use of firearms, racketeering, and assault with dangerous weapons. The charges carried a mandatory minimum of life upon conviction. There was even talk of the prosecution seeking the death penalty. The feds revealed that someone had put a $50,000 bounty on Duck's head. However, no one was willing to do it. The informant further revealed that the same individual had bumped up his offer to $100,000. Someone from O-Block was willing to part ways with $100,000 in exchange for Duck's death. Well, at the time Von was making it big in the industry. He may have been the one that put out the bounty. Although the informant did not reveal the individual's name, they told the cops that the said person had rewarded the killers with custom-made O-Block chains. The pieces were starting to fall into place as a video had earlier surfaced on YouTube of none other than King Von giving O Block members custom-made chains. Apart from this, among all the O Block members, he was the one who had that kind of money since he had made it big in his music career. After internet sleuths did some digging, they found out that the suspected informant was none other than King Von's little brother, Louis V. Documents from the feds showed that the snitch had been arrested for unlawful use of a weapon on the 17th of August 20th. Unfortunately, no one else close to V or even from O Block was arrested on the same day or on the same charge. That left only Louis, who fit the description in the police documents. Apart from that, he also could have known of Von's move on FBG Duck since he was close to him. Rappers now had more reason to be scared of Von, as he could place bounties on his enemies. One person was lucky enough to encounter King Von and live to tell the tale. This was none other than Alexander Weatherspoon. On February 5th, 2019, shots were fired in the parking lot of the Varsity, a popular restaurant located in Midtown Atlanta. Cops responded to the incident within minutes and found a 23-year-old man wounded outside a vehicle in the parking lot. The 23-year-old was later identified as Alexander Weatherspoon and had suffered a gunshot wound to his leg. Witnesses told the authorities that an SUV with 300 plastered on the side was seen speeding away from the scene after the shots were fired. Besides shooting the victim, the rappers also robbed Alexander Weatherspoon of a gold chain and $30,000 and stole his vehicle. In the months that followed, 3 suspects were arrested in connection to the shooting. These were King Von, Lil Durk, and Bezu. Interestingly, Lil Durk was considered the main suspect in this case. It turns out the rapper had 5 charges to his name. These included criminal attempt to commit murder, aggravated assault, unlawful association with a criminal street gang, to conduct or participate in crime, possession of a firearm during commission of a felony, and possession of a firearm by a convicted felon. Cops allege that they even had him on camera firing his weapon at Weatherspoon. However, after Von died, all the charges against Lil Durk were dropped. That was not the most shocking part. It turns out that Von would not have beaten the charge. In a statement released by the DA, Mrs. Fonnie Willis, if co-defendant Davon Bennett, aka King Von, had not died in 2020, he would have been indicted for this incident. It was Von who had shot Weatherspoon. Interestingly, Weatherspoon was a member of the Vice Lords gang, which meant that he was an op, and Von knew how to handle his ops with ease. Judging from the people he grew up with and hung around, it is not surprising that Von turned out to be a violent murderer. It is also not surprising that he struck fear into the hearts of his enemies. Chicago drill showed the world just how wild the streets can get, but most fans don't even know about one of the most feared killers in the city's history. Lil B wasn't just a shooter, he moved like a straight-up assassin. Dude wasn't out here just spraying up blocks, he was calculated. Lil B would pop out of trash cans with the pole, or even dress up like a homeless man just to catch his ops lacking. He played the streets with a level of strategy that had people terrified to even leave the house. For this one, we're diving into the wild stories that made Lil B one of the most feared names in Chicago's drill scene. Coming up on the South Side, Lil B repped TYMB, a crew that had its share of heavy hitters. He was locked in with steppers like TYMB Fefe, and his blood ties made him even more dangerous. His cousins were in the same set, moving just as grimy. One of his cousins, Cortez, is rumored to be the one who allegedly took out Tuka. Tuka, who was repping STL EBT, wasn't the first casualty in the deadly beef between the BDs and GDs, but his death lit a fire that turned the city into a war zone. His name became a rallying cry in this street war, and it's been referenced countless times in drill tracks, but the real story behind the violence is darker than most fans even realize. Lil B and TIMB were in the trenches, and their presence left a trail of fear and destruction that's still talked about in the streets to this day. Lil B was allegedly killed in revenge for a BD named Edric Walker, but Tuka's death had a way bigger impact on Chicago than anyone could have predicted. After Tuka got killed, the GDs clapped back in a major way by taking out a well-respected BD from Wick City named Odie Perry. Odie's death hit the BD set so hard they renamed Wick City to O Block in his honor, a name that's now infamous in drill culture. Ty MB, the crew Lil B repped, actually got its name from Edric Walker, who went by Ty. Lil B and Ty were cousins, which makes the whole situation even crazier, because Lil B eventually flipped to the other side and started applying pressure to the same people he used to rock with. According to street rumors, all the drama started from a wild mistake. Lil B allegedly shot himself by accident. That incident supposedly set off a chain of events that had him switching sides and going at his old homies. Whatever the reason, Lil B didn't just walk away quietly. He made his name as one of the most dangerous figures in the city, and his actions left a permanent mark on the Southside streets. It's not exactly clear how it all went down, but Lil B somehow ended up accidentally shooting himself. When the cops picked him up and started questioning him, it didn't take long for the streets to start buzzing with rumors that he had snitched. A few days later, a TOMB dude named Manny was allegedly booked by the police, and that only added fuel to the fire. Eventually, Lil B's name got cleared, and it came out that he wasn't snitching on anyone. But by the time the truth came out, the damage was already done. The tension in the streets was sky high, and the situation was way past the point of calming down. Ty MB had allegedly already put hands on Lil B over the snitching rumors, so he decided to leave the set altogether and linked up with EBT instead. His move shocked the streets because Lil B switching sides was a major loss for Tim. Once he was with EBT, Lil B didn't waste any time turning up on his old crew. A year after switching sides, he allegedly shot a TMB member named Solo. But that was just the start. Lil B wasn't just making moves, he was going on a spree that cemented his reputation as a savage in the streets. In September 2011, Lil B allegedly caught another body when he killed a dude from Squirt Town named Jizzle. Witnesses claimed it all popped off after an argument between two crews escalated into gunfire. Both sides pulled out burners and started letting off shots, and Jizzle ended up getting hit in the head and chest. Jizzle's mom named Lil B and another dude named Tutu as the shooters. She said they dipped out of the city right after the hit because they were worried the cops were closing in on them. Tutu didn't make it long after, though. He was murdered just a couple of months later. But losing Tutu and the heat on his name didn't slow Lil B down one bit. Just a month after the Jizzle situation, Lil B was right back sliding through op territory. According to street rumors, he was rolling with two dudes named Drizzy and So Icy when he spotted a dude from Trap City named Rio. Lil B wasn't about to let an opportunity slide, and his relentless approach to the streets only added to his deadly reputation. Trap City, also known as Zone 7, is a hood that beefs heavily with STLEBT. So when Lil B allegedly caught sight of a dude from Trap City named Rio, he didn't hesitate. Witnesses said Lil B started letting off shots from inside the whip and took Rio out on sight. By this point, Lil B had allegedly taken out 2 ops in just 1 month, and that was only the beginning. His enemies weren't just dealing with a shooter. They were facing someone who operated like an assassin, moving swiftly and without mercy. This next story really shows why Lil B's enemies were so terrified of him, as his name became synonymous with fear in both TIMB and beyond. Less than 2 weeks after Rio's murder, Lil B allegedly made his way straight into O-Block and caught another body on October 18, 2011. A dude from O-Block named J Hood said he was out there with Oogie, T-Stick, Boss Money, and Platoon, who were all supposed to hit another spot together. But J Hood got a phone call and had to run upstairs real quick, leaving the others outside. By the time he got to the staircase, the gunfire had already erupted. J Hood looked out the window and saw 2 shooters standing over Oogie, letting off shots. After they ran off, J Hood rushed down to check on Oogie and discovered that Oogie wasn't the only one hit. Platoon was lying there bloodied, with bullets in his head, arms, legs, and chest. Oogie miraculously survived, but Platoon was later pronounced dead. Lil B quickly became the prime suspect, and his name only grew more feared after that. The streets knew Lil B wasn't just out there shooting, he was on a mission, and his body count was rising fast. His ops knew that they weren't just dealing with someone who pulled triggers, but a killer with a ruthless agenda that left no room for mercy. Lil B didn't move like most shooters. He kept a low profile and didn't go around bragging about his hits on social media, but that didn't stop the cops from catching on to him. His name started popping up in over 30 cases, including the murder of Jizzle. Lil B had allegedly taken out 3 people by 2011, but he still wasn't done. The streets knew Lil B wasn't just about pulling triggers. He was calculated, methodical, and moving with a purpose. His reputation was built on silence and terror, leaving his ops scared to step out of line. By that point, his name was feared citywide, and the bodies continued to pile up. Lil B's reign of violence showed no signs of slowing down. On December 17, 2011, Lil B and King Lil J were allegedly out robbing people all day. The two were always tight. Jay even gave Lil B a shout-out on his track, Keep It On Me, rapping, "I'll be damned if a ninja LA me or Sherrod when he got hit across the street. No, I can't go like OD with the XD, rock out like Lil B." We don't know exactly how it all went down, but Jay and Lil B reportedly approached a car full of dudes and demanded to rob them. One of the dudes allegedly handed over his watch, but when the driver took off, Lil B opened fire. He hit the driver in the head, and paramedics pronounced him dead at the scene. By this point, Lil B's name had become synonymous with fear across the city. His reputation as a cold, calculated killer was solidified, and there was no denying his presence on the streets was anything but dangerous. A few months later, a dude from O Block named Sherrod was shot and killed, and the gun used in his murder was the same one that took out Jizzle. This led some people to believe Lil B was the shooter, but rumors started circulating that it was actually a dude from STL named Boss Trell. Lil B got locked up a couple of times in 2012, but he didn't stay behind bars for long. He allegedly slid into O Block 2 more times that November, showing just how relentless he was in his pursuit of ops. That same year, Lil B allegedly caught another body from Zone 7 Trap City when he killed a dude named Scooter. By this point, Lil B had built a reputation for putting in serious work for the set, but he wasn't immune to taking losses either. In October 2012, Lil B's homie P5 was either headed to grab some coffee or pick up some weight. There's different versions of what exactly he was doing that morning, but whatever the case, he definitely wasn't prepared for what happened next. According to reports, P5 arrived at the spot and was ambushed by King Von, J Money, Big A, L.A. Capone, and Manny. P5 tried to run, but Manny allegedly shot him in the back, dropping him to the ground. The rest of them walked up and executed P5 with 6 shots to the face. P5's death was a major loss for Lil B, but he wasn't just gonna let that slide. Less than a year later, in September 2013, J Money was out with Prince Dre and E-Dog, heading to the laundromat. They had no clue that Lil B had been on their trail the whole time. He was low in the whip, hidden by an unknown driver, blending in while they cruised. Lil B crouched down so they couldn't see him, following the ops until they pulled up to the laundromat. Then Lil B's mans dropped him off around the corner. Lil B crept through the alley, waited for J Money to start loading his laundry, and let loose. J Money got hit in the legs and went down. He tried to get back up, but Lil B was already on him, shot him in the chest and forehead. J Money dropped right there. It was cold, but Lil B wasn't about to let that pain slide. Another body, another name added to the list. Nobody really knows for sure how many people Lil B actually killed, but there are whispers saying he's linked to at least 7 bodies. A few of those stories have some evidence backing them up, but there's no doubt Lil B was one of the most dangerous dudes in the city. TYMB Feifei told Cam Capone News that one time, his homie was walking to court when Lil B popped up out of nowhere. It wasn't some regular setup. Lil B didn't just roll up in a whip and start shooting. Nah, Lil B dressed up like a homeless person and waited for his op to walk by. That's when he hopped up, pulled out the strap, and shot the dude's ear, barely missing his head. Lil B didn't kill Feifei's homie, but he called Feifei right after it went down, bragging about what he did. The streets knew Lil B wasn't just any shooter. He played dirty, ruthless, and calculated. Another time, Lil B allegedly got the drop on some ops by pretending to be a regular dude walking his dog. Ocho Money from O Block said they tried to press him, not knowing who he was. Lil B stayed low-key, blending in, acting like just another person out for a stroll. When they realized who he really was, it was already too late. Lil B had a way of staying calm and collected, striking when least expected, leaving his ops guessing. Luckily for Ocho, the gun jammed and he made it out alive to tell the story. But that wasn't the end of Lil B's terror. He was so ruthless that he didn't just take out his ops. He allegedly shot his own people too. According to Trench's News, Lil B allegedly clapped an STL EBT affiliate named King Cole because he thought Cole was talking to his girl. They were all just chilling, shooting dice. But Lil B clearly wasn't about to let anyone disrespect him like that, especially not from his own set. Even when they repped the same block, loyalty didn't mean much to Lil B when it came to handling his business. If even half the stories about Lil B are true, he was one of the most savage shooters to ever come out of Chicago. When you move like that, it's only a matter of time before the streets catch up to you. But Lil B's end didn't come from one of his ops. In March 2014, the cops allegedly spotted him making a drug deal. He tried to run, but they cornered him in an alleyway. That's when they claimed Lil B pulled a strap on them, and they opened fire, killing him on the spot. However, the story doesn't sit right with some. Lil B was shot 7 times in the back, and his homies claimed he didn't even have a gun on him that day. Rumors spread that the cops were looking to get him off the streets by any means necessary, so they jumped at the chance when he ran from them. What's really wild about the story is that Lil B had actually just landed a legit job cleaning houses. His boss, Shamika Jordan, told ABC News that Lil B had a troubled past and was trying to turn his life around, looking to make a fresh start. but unfortunately he never got a real chance to leave the trenches. His death was a harsh reminder that even when people are trying to change, the streets don't forget. Chicago's got some of the wildest rappers and street dudes out there, but most folks don't know about Lil Les, one of the craziest shooters to ever come out of the city, who kept sliding on ops even after they took his eye. Lil Les grew up on the south side of Chicago, but moved into the Pocket area when he was around 9, repping the Pocket Town set. Pocket Town's been around since the 80s, but it wasn't until Nate Hill took the reins that they truly became one of the most feared crews in the city. Hill was running the coke game, allegedly raking in over 100 mil moving weight. He started out stealing cars and hustling just to get by, but once Hill flipped his first bag of coke, he realized how much money there was to be made. From then on, it was all about the grind, and turning the Pocket Town set into a powerhouse. He was a smart dude who knew how to clean the drug money through his own bus company, and before long, Hill was working with the cartels, bringing literal tons of cocaine into Chicago. When you're moving that much weight, it's only a matter of time before the feds catch on. Hill knew the game well enough to know when it was time to bounce, and in his case, he had to dip to Africa to avoid getting locked up. According to Hill, he had already left the drug game behind long ago. After that, he dove into a whole new set of ventures, starting his own newspaper, launching a record company, and breaking into the movie industry. Hill even claimed to have business deals with superstars like Michael Jackson, cementing his name in more than just the streets. While Hill was on the run, the feds had him on their top 10 most wanted criminals in the world, but truth is, Hill wasn't just about the money and the violence. He was actually trying to help as many people as he could while evading the law. In Africa, he linked up with tribal leaders from Ghana, Sierra Leone, and Liberia, working to trade resources and support their communities. Hill had gone from moving weight and pulling strings to trying to build something positive for those who had nothing. But the feds eventually caught up to him, bringing him down for what he had done in the past, while his legacy of trying to help the people lives on. After Hill was convicted, he famously said, "The hunger for a better life has cost me my life." Once Hill got out of the coke game, it led to all kinds of chaos and fighting between different sets, all scrambling to take control of the scene. Even though Hill had left the streets behind and was trying to create a new path toward peace and stability, the power vacuum he left behind only fueled more violence. In Pocket Town, things became increasingly brutal. The once feared crew, Pocket Town, fractured as different factions vied for dominance. It wasn't just a battle over territory, it became a battle for survival. Everyone wanted a piece of the pie, and without Hill's influence, there was no structure to keep things in check. The power struggles turned into outright wars, with crews clashing over drugs, territory, and respect. Lil Les jumped off the porch early, and his older brother, King Rico, was the one who showed him the ropes. By the time they were about 12 years old, the brothers were already making a name for themselves in the trenches. They were out stealing cars, kicking in doors, and moving weight, all while trying to stay one step ahead of the cops. Les was always looking for a way out, but at the same time, he had dreams of becoming a rapper. This was long before Chief Keef blew up and put Chicago on the map for drill music. Back then, the rap game wasn't as accessible, especially for young dudes from the streets. It was a struggle just to get noticed, and the odds were stacked against anyone trying to break through. Les never managed to fully blow up in the music industry, so he kept his feet planted in the trenches, living that street life, and becoming one of the most feared names in Chicago. While others from his generation chased fame and fortune, Lil Les knew his survival depended on respect and control in the streets. His grind wasn't just about rapping, it was about building a legacy of dominance. Back in the day, Pocket Town was linked up heavy with a set called ABM. Lil Les and his brother King Rico would slide out with ABM, riding on their ops from Murder Town. Rumors spread that Les had something to do with the death of a dude named DRO from Murder Town. After DRO was killed, Murder Town rebranded themselves as DRO City, but that wasn't the end of Les's involvement in shaping these violent street dynamics. Les wasn't just connected to one set, he was allegedly tied to multiple conflicts. A dude named Jarvis from ABM was tight with Pocket Town, but he also had connections to some of their ops over in Sircon City. The tension between Pocket Town and Sircon City had been brewing for a minute, but when Jarvis started bridging both sides, it only made the beef even more intense. Eventually, that friction sparked a full-blown war between ABM and Pocket Town. According to the streets, Jarvis was partying with dudes from Sircon City one night when Lil Les and some other affiliates from Pocket Town pulled up. They tried to get inside, but weren't allowed in. Les left for a minute, but then came back and allegedly shot Jarvis in the face. Les never faced charges for the murder, but 600 Breezy confirms it on Twitter, saying, "We lost 6 people in 8 years. Y'all been getting your ish popped since Lil Les took Jarvis's face off." That murder was just one of many that earned Les his reputation. His name rang out in the city, feared and respected for the violence he allegedly carried out. The streets knew that when Lil Les came through, it wasn't just talk, it was action. ABM eventually started going by Jarrow City in honor of Jarvis after his death, and they were rumored to have retaliated by killing a Pocket Town affiliate named Lil Albert. That getback sparked more violence as Pocket Town clapped back, taking out a Jarrow City dude of their own. By 2009, Lil Les had already cemented his reputation as one of the most ruthless in the city. Allegedly, he took out a Sircon City affiliate named Lil Mo, followed by another Sircon affiliate named Julian. None of these murders were ever confirmed, but the streets knew Les wasn't stopping anytime soon. His name was spoken in fear, his reputation growing with everybody rumored to be tied to him. What's wild is that even though Pocket Town and Sircon City were at war, there were still moments where they would come together, like playing basketball. Back in 2006, Lil Les, his brother King Rico, and some other Pocket Town affiliates had a game lined up against Sircon City on Pocket Town turf. There was $200 on the line, so both sides came ready to compete. But somewhere in the middle of the game, tensions boiled over and a fight broke out. Before anyone could throw hands, someone from Pocket Town allegedly pulled a strap and started letting off shots. Luckily, no one got hit, but the bad blood only got worse after that. Les must have known there'd be fallout, but the next day, while he was caught in traffic, someone upped on him and shot him in the face. Now here's where things get murky. There are 2 different stories about what went down, and no one knows which one is true, so let's break it all the way down. In one version of the story, Lil Les was riding around in Rico's car when a dude named Lil Mo from Sircon City ran up and let off shots, hitting Les in the eye. Miraculously, Les survived the ambush, but the damage was permanent. The doctors couldn't save his left eye, leaving him half blind for the rest of his life. Rico was furious when he saw his brother in the hospital, and the very next day, he allegedly made a move to even the score. According to the streets, a Sircon City affiliate named Damian Kendricks was walking down the block when 4 masked dudes in hoodies rolled up on him. Without hesitation, they hopped out and started firing. Damian was hit multiple times and tragically didn't make it. Rico was arrested for the murder and eventually sentenced to 55 years behind bars. Despite the conviction, Rico has always maintained his innocence, claiming he wasn't involved in Damian's death. Rico's whole case was wild from start to finish, and it had all the makings of a setup. According to Injustice Watch, an organization that digs into police misconduct, the detectives on Rico's case, Brian Forberg and Kevin Eberly, had some seriously shady tactics. There were 3 witnesses who initially ID'd Rico as the shooter, but by the time the trial came around, 2 of them completely flipped their stories. They told the court that the detectives had pressured them into giving false statements. One of them said straight up that he only told Forberg and Eberly what they wanted to hear because he was scared they'd book him for a probation violation if he didn't. Another witness admitted that he made a statement just so he could get out of the police station faster, not because he actually saw Rico do anything. Here's the wild part. There was 0 physical evidence tying Rico to Damian's murder. No fingerprints, no weapon, no DNA, nothing. The prosecution's whole case hinged on those shaky witness statements, and even though 2 of them fell apart in court, Rico still got hit with a murder conviction. And it's not like this was an isolated incident with these detectives. Forberg and Eberly had a history of pulling shady moves in other cases too. Rico's case kept getting messier the more you looked into it. Back in 2011, Detective Brian Forberg was named in a $3.4 million wrongful conviction lawsuit after it came out that the state had hidden evidence proving a guy named Maurice Patterson was innocent. Forberg and his partner Kevin Eberly had also been behind another case where an innocent man was locked up for 3 years, all based on a coerced witness statement. These 2 had a track record of shady tactics, but somehow they kept sliding under the radar. Rico later said that Forberg and Eberly were always coming around, snatching dudes off the street and making them part of their cases. But back then, Rico didn't know anything about police misconduct or how deep it could go. He was just trying to survive. Normally, a case as flimsy as Rico's, with no physical evidence and unreliable witnesses, would get thrown out. But Rico wasn't just up against crooked cops. He also had the bad luck of having one of the worst defense lawyers in the game. His trial lawyer, Dave Weiner, was a complete disaster. Dude was an alcoholic with anger issues, and he eventually got fired by the state because he was so bad at defending his clients. Rico even said he could smell alcohol on Weiner's breath during their meetings. And a few times, Weiner didn't even bother to show up for pre-trial hearings. That left Rico in the hands of a random public defender who had no clue about his case and no time to prepare. The drama surrounding Rico's case didn't stop with the crooked detectives and his trash lawyer. Even the judge, Joseph Claps, had his own skeletons in the closet. In 2018, Claps caught a gun charge, inside the courthouse of all places. Surveillance footage straight up showed his strap falling out of his jacket while he was walking around the building. Now, if that had been someone from the streets, they would have been locked up with no hesitation. But Claps had all the right connections in the legal system. Instead of facing any real consequences, he managed to skate on the case and keep it moving. Dude didn't even lose his job. He went right back to judging other people, handing out sentences like he hadn't just been caught slipping with a piece in a government building. The story of how Lil Les lost his eye has always been clouded in mystery, with street rumors spinning two different versions. According to one version, he got hit by Lil Mo during a drive-by, but the other version gets a lot more complicated and wild. Alleged paperwork leaked, claiming Les gave the cops info about the situation, and if true, it paints a whole different picture of what went down. It all supposedly happened on September 20th, 2006. Les was driving down 72nd and Dobson when he spotted a dude he knew named Danny Blackwell. Blackwell asked Les for a ride to a barbershop so he could collect some money from a dude who owed him. Les, being cool with Blackwell, decided to give him a lift. When they got to the barbershop, Les stayed posted in the whip while Blackwell went inside. From where he was parked, Les could see everything going down through the shop's front window. At first, it seemed chill. Blackwell was shaking hands and dapping up a couple of dudes inside. But then, out of nowhere, the energy shifted. Blackwell got into an argument with one of the dudes. Voices got louder, tempers flared, and then it escalated, fast. One of the dudes swung on Blackwell, and that's when Blackwell pulled his strap and let off a shot. As soon as the shots rang out in the barbershop, Lil Les wasn't trying to stick around to see how it all played out. He peeled off, not wanting to get caught up in the heat or whatever drama Danny Blackwell had stirred up. But apparently, Blackwell wasn't feeling how Les dipped out like that. To him, it looked like Les left him hanging, and in the streets, even a small move like that can spark a whole new beef. A few days later, Blackwell spotted Les while he was out shooting dice. Tensions boiled over, and they started going back and forth, shouting and calling each other out in front of everyone. But Les, knowing how wild things could get, decided it wasn't worth it. He turned his back on the argument and walked off, heading toward his whip to dip out of the situation. That's when Blackwell made his move. Instead of letting it go, he ran up on Les and shot him in the face. The bullet left Les permanently blind in one eye, but it didn't take him out. Les survived the hit, but the beef with Blackwell and the streets left a permanent mark on him both physically and mentally. Blackwell didn't last much longer himself. By 2007, he was dead, though the streets never confirmed who might have been behind it. The story doesn't end there, though. Years later, in 2016, Lil Les found out some innocent dude had been locked up for the murder at the barbershop, the one Blackwell actually committed. Rumors in the streets said Les decided to step forward and talk to the cops, telling them everything he knew so the innocent man could go free. There's no solid evidence on which story is true about how Lil Les lost his eye, whether it was the dice game beef with Danny Blackwell or getting caught by Lil Mo. Either way, the streets left him scarred, and his brother King Rico was already locked up, fighting a heavy bid. But as if life hadn't dealt them enough tragedy, things took an even darker turn in 2008. On May 26th, Les's sister, Sharkeela, was walking down the street, minding her business, when a car pulled up out of nowhere. Before anyone could react, shots started flying. Sharkeela was hit, and despite being rushed to the hospital, she didn't make it. She was pronounced dead later that night, leaving the family shattered. What makes her death even harder to process is the rumors surrounding it. Word on the street is that Sharkeela wasn't even the intended target. Allegedly, the shooter was from Pocket Town, the same set Les had been riding for, and it was all a tragic accident. Lil Les was a menace in the streets, and his reputation was wild. They say he was sliding on everyone back in the day, moving like a one-man army against any ops that crossed him. By the time he was just 17, Les already had over 17 arrests under his belt. But in 2009, the law finally caught up to him in a way he couldn't shake. The details of what happened are murky, but the streets say Les was deep in op territory. with some younger Pocket Town affiliates when things popped off. Shots were fired, and by the end of it, Les was the one who took the heat. According to the word around town, he caught 2 counts of aggravated battery with a firearm, and the system made sure he paid the price. In most cases, a judge might let sentences for similar charges run at the same time. But Lil Les wasn't just anyone. His name rang bells across Chicago, and his reputation as a feared shooter played against him. The judge threw the book at him and hit him with a consecutive sentence instead, stacking the time and handing him 24 years behind bars. Pocket Town and KTS were deep in the streets, linked up and both with long-standing beefs against Sircon City. Back when Lil Les went down for that shootout, KTS Von rose to prominence, becoming one of the most feared names in Chicago. In 2011, Von allegedly caught his first body, taking out a dude named Gotti, who was repping 8x13. After that, the name Gotti World surfaced, and people started drawing comparisons between KTS Von and Lil Les. They both carried that same ruthless, relentless energy in the streets. The following year, in 2012, Von was said to have taken out 2 No Limit affiliates, along with hitting 4 more dudes when he caught them lacking on the streets. G. Herbo was one of the unfortunate victims that got shot during all the madness, but luckily, he survived and made a full recovery. KTS Von and his brother Dre weren't slowing down. A few months later, they got involved in a wild shootout after pressing No Limit Cairo at the McDonald's. In 2013, Von and his KTS crew slid into Sircon City territory and took out a dude named Pharaoh while he was handling trash for his pops. That murder sent shockwaves through the streets. A few months later, Von allegedly caught another No Limit affiliate, Kobe, back at that same McDonald's where Cairo had been pressed. Unfortunately, Kobe didn't get away, and his homies later found him dead in the streets. By 2015, KTS Von had established himself as one of the most savage dudes in the city. But when he stepped into the rap game, it was clear how much respect Lil Les had earned in the streets. Despite being locked up for over half a decade, Von never forgot the legacy of the real ones who paved the way. On the track Killed to Survive, Von paid homage, rapping, "Cutthroat Shorty, I'm a vet. I remember going crazy with the tech. Had a string so I put it on my neck. Wish a little soft ninja flex, free a real ninja, Lil Les. Out lurking late night like a bat. That's when a ninja aim be the best. Show no mercy, got it tatted on my chest." A lot of folks don't even know about Lil Les because he was putting in work back before everything hit social media. When it came to dudes the ops straight up feared, Les was at the top of that list. The earliest chance he has to hit parole is 2030, but hopefully he doesn't come right back to the trenches. The man's already been through so much, and truthfully, it's a blessing he's even alive right now. Maybe he'll take a different route, try getting back into the rap game full time instead of sliding on the ops. The streets don't need another body. Maybe it's time for him to tell his story through the mic, not the barrel of a gun.
The shit is wicked on these mean streets, mean streets.
Dear God, I want to